Alright. I think we're good. Alright. That should be rocking and rolling. Alright, what is going on, guys? Hope you're all killing it and having a fantastic day. Welcome back to a new video. As you've probably just seen, I have now got a dead cat. That's what it's called, the furry thing that you put on top of the microphone to completely cut out the wind. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to start using it, taking you guys on behind the scenes shoots. Speaking of shoots, I went out shooting this morning and it was mint. Absolutely banging. So sick. The sky lit up insanely good. Honestly, one of the best shoots by far of this year. I was shooting both Saturday and basically all weekend, and I was very fortunate and I got these shots, and yeah, it was absolutely nuts. The first one was in, it's called Little Ostie. Ostermere, a local beach, probably around 5 minutes drive from my girlfriend's house. So I went shooting this morning at Coal Cliff, which is probably around 10 minutes drive from my girlfriend's house. And yeah, as you've seen, the sky absolutely lit up. I'm currently editing through the photos at the moment, and I honestly don't know how to edit the photos because it was just perfect. I had some ND graduated filters, and the way the raws look, they honestly don't need any post-processing at all because they look perfect in camera. So I'm just going to do some behind the scenes. I've got my photos imported into Lightroom, and yeah, I'll just run you through some of the basic editing that I do with my images. So hope you guys do like this video. Subscribe if you're new, and yeah, let's get into the video. Alrighty, so I've got my photos imported here in Lightroom. As you can see, I've edited some of the photos from this morning. It absolutely went off. I think this one might be my favorite so far. But yeah, this is just the base image. I didn't focus stack. If you don't know what that is, you basically focus on three or four separate parts of composition, and yeah, you just focus on the foreground, middle ground, and then the background for the sky and the clouds and whatnot, and you blend them all into the one photo to get maximum sharpness. I didn't focus stack on this seascape because I was way too rushed, the light was too good, and I was just in a hurry to smash out a bunch of compositions and shots. So that one I'm very happy with. I am going to reset that just to make sure. But I'll go from start straight to finish of my post-processing. First thing I like to do is I like to go down to the lens corrections, enable profile corrections, and remove chromatic aberration. So I like to go back into profile and bring back the vignetting because I like the vignetting my photos. Next thing I do is I go to the crop tool up top and I just straighten out that horizon as best as I can. Bring it up. Yeah, that should be fine. Next thing I do is I just switch around and play with the white balance. What that does is it gives me a base color grading just so I can have like a feel for the mood and the type of editing that I want to do with the shot. So I just flick around these white balance settings. I think I just like the daylight settings that I shot it at. Yeah, I'm just gonna run with that. I might just bring a little bit of the blue back into the photo, and that should be fine. Next thing I do is open up the shadows, bring down the highlights just to give me maximum dynamic range. As you can see, it's a little bit flat, so I'm just going to open up the whites. And what I also do, just so I don't clip the highlights, is I hold Alt on the keyboard, and that will give me a mask to see what I'm clipping and what I'm not clipping. So if I hold Alt, click down on the whites, as you can see it goes black. If I move that up, you'll see these red spots appear. That means I'm clipping the highlights. So I'll just bring that back so there's not much there. Boom. Then the same thing with the blacks. Hold Alt, bring the blacks down. As you can see, we're clipping a little bit of the blacks, which is, I'm fine with that. And then I might just bring up the exposure just a couple of stops. Boom. Easy done. As for the sharpening, I just bring that down and I'll do the sharpening later in Photoshop. So that's just my basic edits. As you can see, before and after of just the basic Lightroom adjustments, and then we'll bring it into Photoshop and do additional processing from there. So what I'm going to do now is right click on the photo, edit in Adobe Photoshop, and that should load up in the interface. Alright, so my file is loaded into Photoshop, and this is where I do most of my editing. As for my techniques and whatnot, and my vignetting and how I do all of that, that's basically, I just do it all in Photoshop and then just go back into Lightroom and do some minor adjustments and then do the export from there. So I've got the file here. I will duplicate that by pressing Command or Control J. That will duplicate that layer. As you can see, it's locked. What you always want to do is have a copy of your original layer, just so you can go back to if you need to and you're not destroying that main layer. Alright, so this is the layer that I'm going to be doing all the adjustments to. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that again, and I'm going to do a camera raw filter, open up the shadows and mask that into the areas that I want it. As you can see in these rocks, it's really dark and I really don't like the look of it being that dark. So I'm just going to open up, I'm going to duplicate that, go to Filter, Camera Raw. That should open up the module, Rock and Roll, and then I'm going to open up the shadows. And I think I'm going to open up the whites as well, just for the water. It's a bit too much, bring that down. And that should be fine. So what I'm looking at here is I'm just looking at the areas that I want to target that area in the, as for me, in the rocks and the water. So I'm just looking at them. I'm not looking at the sky. I'm not looking at the image as a whole with these adjustments. So I'm going to mask in where I want those to adjust and to target. Hit OK. Boom. So we've got two layers now. We've got the raw, and then we've got the adjustment raw, camera raw filter that we just edited and open up the shadows and whatnot that you just seen. So next, what you want to do is hold Alt, and this is the mask. What that basically is it's like a cover for your layer. So what you want to do is invert that layer mask. The shortcut is Alt and then click on the layer mask icon there, or you can just press Control or Command I and that will invert that. So with layer masks, as you can see, it's invisible at the moment, but if I were to paint on white here in this layer, that will become visible in this layer here. It's a bit of a mind muck around, but you'll eventually use it and get used to it. So I'm going to enable that layer mask. You'll see and watch and learn. So it all takes time. There's no rushing. It took me forever to use layer masks, clipping masks and whatnot. But it's a really good technique, and I highly recommend everyone to use it and learn it because it's such a powerful tool. So I'm on a 1400 pixel brush with a 0 hardness, 100% opacity, 100% flow, and 100% smoothing. So I've got white on the bottom there, and I've got a black layer mask. So when I press brush, it'll reveal what that camera filter, what we made the adjustments to before. So I'll just go around into the areas that I want. When it comes to areas like this, I bring down the opacity to around, I don't know, 20%, and just go in and bring those details and shadows back in. So as you can see, with those little bit of masking there, and opened up more of the details that were in the shadows there. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to create a curves adjustment. So you go down to the bottom here, the little circle, click that, curves. And what I like to do with the curves is I like to do like a kind of vignette. How I do that is I grab the mid-tones, drag that down, and open up the shadows a little bit. There we go. Perfect. What I'm going to do now is invert that, Control I, and I'll invert that. Then I use a circle gradient filter to kind of blend that in so it's not as harsh on the edges. So press G, or it's this icon down here. Make sure it's on the round one, 100%, and I'm going to use white paint because I'm on a black layer mask. So I'm just going to click and drag. and that will create that vignette. And I'm just going to go in and mask where I don't want that vignette to affect. So because it's a white layer mask, I want to paint in black to reveal the underneath layer. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flatten all the layers that are visible at the moment by pressing Shift, Alt and Command E, and that will flatten all of those layers and make one complete layer that is completely flattened. And then I'm going to duplicate that, create another curves adjustment, and I just want this to affect the highlights in the wet rocks without affecting the shadows. So to do that, I am going to create a new layer, set the blend mode to overlay, create a layer mask, then I'm going to go up to edit, image, apply image, and whatever's white will be revealed, whatever's black is not going to be revealed. So I'm going to hit OK because I just want it to affect the highlights. Next, what I want to do is hit Alt and click on the layer mask. That will show what the layer mask looks like on the image. So I'm gonna hit Alt, click that, and then I'm gonna hit Control M, and that will bring up a curves. And then I want to bring up the highlights and decrease the shadows to make that mask a little bit more refined. Bring up the highlights and bring down the shadows. Perfect, that should be fine. Then I'm going to click back on the layer, B for brush, and I'm going to paint with a white brush with a low opacity and a low flow. I'm going to flatten that layer again. Next, what I want to do is I want to do the Orton effect, which is one of my favorite techniques, and it just gives it that dreamy kind of look and softens the image. So what I'm going to do now is Control J, that flatten layer, go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and then depending on the camera that you use, depends on the radius that you use. So I'm going to go, I shoot on the Nikon D750, so I'm going to go around, we'll go around 20. That should be fine. Perfect. What I want to do now is open up the highlights and give it that kind of glow look. So I'm just going to go to the curves, open up the highlights, and bring down the shadows. You want to make a really nice contrast just so you can get that nice glow feel to the image. Perfect. Next, what I want to do is I want to clip that to the bottom layer that we just Gaussian blurred. So to do so, we just hold Alt, put your cursor in between the two layers, the Gaussian blur and the curves adjustments that we just did, and boom, that will clip that to the blurred layer. Next, what you want to do is I like to bring the opacity down of that layer to around, I want to say 15 to 20%, and that will give you the ideal opacity for basically any image. So I'm going to bring that down, and as you can see, when we go up, it gives it that dreamy effect. If we go too much, it gives it that just a touch too much, and it completely flattens your image and makes it look too fairy tale-y or dreamy or very blurry. So you've just got to find that sweet spot. 20 for me, that's fine, and I want to mask that in areas. Obviously I don't want it up in the sky where it's nice and sharp, so I'm just going to create a layer mask, hold Alt and the layer mask. That will make an invisible layer mask. And then I just basically just want to paint with white on a black layer mask, and that will reveal the Orton effect. Next, what I want to do is I want to flatten that. duplicate that flatten layer, and next what I want to do is I want to do the sharpening of the image. So I want to go to filter up top, other, and high pass. And I like to use a high radius for this just to give it that extra bit of oomph and detail to it. 120 is fine as the layer overlay. And that will hide that grey overlay that you kind of see there. Next what I want to do, I obviously don't want it to affect the whole image. What I want to do is hit Alt and the layer mask. This is where layer masks come in key because you always need to use them. I'm on a black layer mask, white paint, and then just paint in where I want that sharpening to be. Perfect. And then I want to flatten the whole layers together, and then I'm just going to merge them all from the before and after. So I'm going to go all the way down, merge them all. As you can see with our adjustments, that's what we created. Perfect. Next what I want to do is merge them all together so it's a nice flattened image. And I want to go to the cross up the top and then save that. Now we'll export it and bring it back into Lightroom. So we've got the TIFF file into Lightroom, and next what I want to do is I want to open up the shadows just a bit because I feel like it needs it, and maybe a little bit of the highlights, and perfect. I feel like that's a final image there. The highlights are nice and popped on the wet rocks, and the shadows have a really nice tone to them. So I'm really happy with this final result. As you can see, the light absolutely went insane this morning. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope you guys do give it a like, and let me know what you think of this image. I hope this helped, and I hope you can use these techniques and layer masking and whatnot in your own photography. Let me know, tag me in your post. Let me know how you went with the editing, and yeah, I'll be more than happy to see your images and, you know, give it a like and whatnot. So hope you guys do have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.